Hello and welcome back to ShameOver. I'm so glad you're here. Today we are talking moderation and motherhood and how they don't necessarily go together, at least how we've seen or been taught. And that's a problem. So much of what I saw growing up, and this was not really at home, it was more like in TV and movies and everything. It's Nothing is about drinking in moderation, right? Especially here in the United States. It's just not. When you think about going to high school parties, it's one, we're sneaking it because we're not of legal age, but we're really focused on getting drunk, right? I mean, you don't go to a high school party to be like, oh, let's just sip wine and act like we're cool. No, at least not the parties I went to. Then you go to college where I saw my first ever box and a that one, wine in a box. I remember calling my mom being like, what is Franzia? Franzia? I don't even know. And she's like, oh, dear Lord, stay away. So that comes to mind. And, beer bongs and all these things, flip cups, all the fun drinking games. And again, fun, but the whole point is how quickly can we consume? How quickly can we feel? And I saw very quickly that the whole point of being social was really focused on not drinking in moderation. And then you get into life, and that's typically still the case, more focused on, I guess, more binge drinking on weekends. Maybe for me, I definitely would have some wine throughout the week, but big binge drinking on weekends. Then you become a mom and you see how much out there showed you about mommy wine culture and, it's okay, just have this, or no one has to know what's in your water bottle, or all these little things that, believe me, I was the first to laugh at them, to share them, to buy the napkins or towels, or, and part of me does still find some of them funny. Some of them still are funny, plain and simple they are. I'm humorous, don't get me wrong. That being said, there is this perpetual cycle that we keep sending these messages to ourselves, to each other, to our children. But the crazy thing is, we're sending these messages to each other, for example, yet if someone is drinking a little too much, the judgment goes up, right? The shame is so ingrained. You're not going to talk to anyone about it. You're not going to reach out, especially early on when you're not quite sure. So what happens? We keep the cycle going. And then we send it right to our kids, which I know none of us wants. So today we're really going to talk about kind of that generational cycle, how we can start breaking it ourselves so that we can start teaching our kids something new. So with this, as I hope you know, just by the name ShameOver, there is no shame. And I want you to leave that at the door. As you're here, please, if you see yourself starting to feel that or go there or ever again, just like get rid of those thoughts. They are not good. They're not healthy for you. They're keeping you in that shame. So just get rid of it, right? We are all here for so many different reasons, but a lot of it is because of what we saw and how we were trained for our relationship with alcohol, how it's supposed to look like. Did that ever mean that it was supposed to look like waking up drinking all day or drinking every night or binge drinking on weekends or whichever is your, pick your poison? No, it's never supposed to look like that. But the problem is that is what alcohol does. Alcohol is a drug, it is a poison, and that is what it is designed to do. So the fact that you have experienced that means alcohol is doing its job. There is nothing wrong with you. That is your body, your brain, everything working correctly, that it is actually having that effect on you. So one, I hope that lets you, again, get rid of some of that shame and that judgment. When it comes to others, please try to be as loving and graceful with them as you need and would ask people to be for yourself, because this topic sucks. It's not a fun one to talk about. It's not sexy. Believe me, I can tell you, I'm not the funnest person to talk to at parties because as soon as people hear that this is what I'm doing, they're like, and I'm out. Don't talk to her because she's going to judge us. Farthest from the truth. But we all have our feelings, we all have our insecurities, and that's what happens. But I have noticed so much how we're taught and trained that, again, mommy wine culture. It is called mommy wine culture for a reason. I remember a moment during COVID that my daughter, I don't remember exactly how old she was, but she saw a wine glass at a friend's house and brought it was empty, just a glass. Brought it over to me and said, "Here you go, Mama." And I was just like, of course we all laughed, but I was just like, what am I teaching her? And it was a good moment to ask myself, like, what am I teaching her? What is she seeing? It doesn't matter. I'm not talking to her about alcohol at this age. Even now that she's 5 years old, I'm still not, having these conversations, but she is noticing based on my behavior, based on my habits, how I am handling stress, how I am coping with bad days, how I am enjoying good days and celebrating. Is alcohol always present? She sees if it is or is not. And I know this because she actually had said, this was a couple weeks ago, but alcohol did get brought up because, they'll ask, like, can I have this? Is this a mommy or daddy drink? And she actually made the observation. I don't know why you call it a mommy drink if I can drink it because it doesn't have alcohol. Like that just means I don't want to share. But mommy drink means you can't have it. So please just don't even ask. So kind of digressing on that, so I apologize for that. But it was now sharing that story, it is very obvious to me how much has changed in those couple of years between her bringing me the wine glass and her not even thinking wine and mom in the same sentence. It has taken a lot during that time to get there and for that to be not only my relationship with alcohol, but also what I am portraying to her and also my son as I'm going through this journey. And again, we can talk all we want. Kids don't listen. They watch by how we behave. If you are a mama like me, I'm going to get into this. I do want to say, if you're not a mom, this still relates to you. So I hope, one, this doesn't scare you off, but two, I also hope that you can take a lot of value from this because this is just life. For me, just a lot of the triggers and things that are coming up for me are due to motherhood, are due to my kids and what they're bringing out in me. So on that note, I'm going to talk about that. A lot of us drink for one of two reasons. I would say, unless you are completely alcohol dependent, waking up, drinking as soon as you wake up, all day, throughout the day, all night, waking up to drink in the middle of the night. Yes, people do that. This probably isn't for you. For the rest of us who are kind of more, if you want to call it that gray area drinker, we drink for one of two reasons, sometimes both. We either want to feel pleasure, we want that happy sensation, we want the buzz, whatever it does for us physically, mentally, emotionally, or we want the stress reliever. We want it to numb us out. We want it to help us forget about the day, to help us manage the stress or the death, the world that politically is just so insane right now. Which reason do you drink for? Do you drink for the pleasure? Do you drink for the stress reducer or to completely numb out? Probably both, but I'm guessing it's more likely, and granted, it could change on the day, you are reaching for that glass for one of two reasons. If you are highly sensitive like me, deeply feeling, whatever you want to call it, there is so much overstimulation going on throughout the day, not only just because there's so much going on, but technology and phones. If you have a phone, you are overstimulated already because we are constantly being inundated with information that we never had access to previously. We're getting emails every 5 seconds. We're getting text messages. We're getting notifications. We're getting all these different things. So if you are highly sensitive, you are going to be overstimulated without even knowing it. I have a lot of clients who drink just to shut their brain off. Almost all of them are highly sensitive. Those who aren't typically might be ADD, ADHD, or have other things going on, or they might have that and be oversensitive as well. Highly sensitive, not oversensitive. Sorry. And I will talk a little bit more about this in another episode, but highly sensitive is not a bad thing. It is absolutely one of the greatest gifts, especially if you learn how to make it your superpower. So again, we will get into that separately, but if you have noticed yourself just being overstimulated a lot and you can't calm down, you can't really in the day without a glass of wine because it's the only thing that seems to shut your brain off for a sec. You're probably going to fall in this camp. And maybe that'll be my next episode because you're going to want to learn from this because the more I've learned about it, holy crap, I have gained so much. So anyway, with we're drinking for either pleasure or for a stress reducer, every time that we are having those feelings. So, like, oh, I want to feel the buzz. I want to feel good. I want to be happy. As soon as we have that thought, we pour our drink, have that sip, that puts another vote in that bucket for not only is that the person I want to be, but that's what alcohol does. And that's how it makes me feel. So anytime I want that feeling, I need alcohol for it. This is all happening way behind the scenes in our brain. Every time we're reaching for alcohol to cope with stress, to deal with negative emotions, again, we are putting a vote in that bucket, telling our body and our brain, whenever I feel this way, alcohol will make me feel better. And that is probably why you are here listening, because we've done that bucket so many times. And that is where a lot of the dependence comes to, and just not being able to deal with emotions, especially negative ones. For me, my number one rule, I do not drink for negative emotions. If I've had a bad day, it's off the table. I don't even give myself the option of having a glass of wine or having a cocktail. It's just off the table because I don't want to reinforce that. Because of that, I almost never even think about alcohol when I've had a bad day. Before is the first thing I do. And does it help in the moment? Sure, it does. But a lot of what helps is that initial dopamine hit that you get. And then about the 15 minutes that you get the euphoric feeling. That is it. So we are putting ourselves through so much hell, essentially, for a dopamine hit in 15 minutes. You deserve better. I'm not saying do not drink. I still drink. I don't drink very much, but I still drink. I still enjoy when I drink. If I'm not enjoying it, I actually stop drinking. I put it away because I'm just like, what's the point in this if I'm not actually enjoying it? But my enjoyment now comes from the flavor and the taste and the experience. It's no longer about trying to get that buzz and seeing how much I can make that buzz last and maintain that buzz, because it's never going to end up like we want. We just keep chasing it. And again, 15 minutes. On that note, so again, pleasure, stress. That is one of the two reasons why I guarantee almost every time you're drinking. If you can stop yourself in the moment and actually figure this out, you are going to be leaps ahead and start noticing an automatic decrease in your consumption just by paying attention and being mindful and having this quick conversation with yourself. I would like to implement a new 90-second rule for you before you drink. Before you drink, before you go to it, before you open it, before anything, I want you to, if you need to set an alarm, you can, but for 90 seconds minimum, sit with those feelings and ask yourself what you're thinking, what you're feeling. Am I drinking because I am looking for pleasure right now? Or do I need that stress reducer? Do I need to shut my brain off? The reason why this is so important, one, we feel before we think. That's just how our bodies are. Our brains are working so fast on so many different things, but we feel before we actually think. That's why a lot of times, the example I was going to use didn't even make sense, so never mind. But asking yourself, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? And actually sitting with that is huge. Most emotions, feelings, thoughts, all of that, emotions last typically for 90 seconds. After that 90-second period is done, you are staying on the loop of the story that you've made up about that 90-second experience. That's insane. Look more into this. Psychology is amazing, but 90 seconds. Most urges, because of that, last 90 seconds. If you are all day urge or your witching hour lasts a full hour, you're staying on that loop. The urge only lasted 90 seconds. You are choosing, probably subconsciously, but you are choosing to stay on that loop. So, moms, if you're having a really hard time with the kids, with your partner, with whatever, for me it's kids. If you can sit with that emotion for 90 seconds and be done with it, you are not going to be reaching for mommy wine juice. I promise you that. So instead, what can you do? I want to give you guys action items, things that you can actually do. You may have heard me previously talk about my PS list. Highly, highly, highly recommend coming up with something for yourself. I always, excuse me, I always recommend keeping it in your phone. If you like to journal, that's a great option too. But having it so you can easily access it anytime is going to be so incredibly helpful. But your PS list is anything that comes to mind that brings you pleasure, anything that comes to mind that helps reduce stress. You should be able to do something on this list, regardless of what time of day, where it is, if you're around anyone or not, if you have access to funds or not, it is relevant. There should be something that you can do on this list any time of day, regardless. I used to not put an asterisk on this. Now, just based on what I'm learning about the 90-second rule that I just told you about, you need to be able to do whatever's on this list for at least 90 seconds. So if it's cuddle with your furry friend, 90 seconds. If it's breathing, 90 seconds. If it's going out and connecting with, getting some fresh air or anything along those lines, 90 seconds. Again, if you stay on the loop, go for 90 seconds more. It's not like you're automatically going to walk away and be like, I'm great. Yeah, sometimes that'll happen, but we all know that's not always the case. But do something else on the list then. Why this is so important that you start doing and start modeling back to the kids, they learn from us. So, what we're doing during that time, figuring out what's bringing us pleasure or helping reduce the stress, we are connecting. We are connecting with ourselves. Maybe we're connecting with someone else. Maybe we're connecting with the environment and outdoors we already know is so beneficial for us for so many reasons. But what we almost always need in this moment is to connect. It's just understanding what do we need to connect with, or who do we need to connect with, and what does that look like? So often this can just be with ourselves. And what is the most beautiful thing about that is that gives you full power and control over everything. And we give our power away so often throughout the day. That's why when our little ones come to us and they're just like, okay, we feel like we have nothing left. We are so drained because we've been giving stuff away all day, giving ourselves, giving our energy, giving our love, our ideas, everything. So, what do you need to connect with? Or who do you need to connect with? And what can that look like? If you just look at pleasure and stress reducers, that will help you do it right there. Because a stress reducer, maybe you need to connect with a friend, you need to connect with someone else, you need to talk, you need to get the emotions out. That's a stress reducer. That can also be pleasure, connecting with someone, right? So really taking time to ask yourselves this. This can be really hard in the moment. I absolutely understand that. But one, you can do hard things, just like Glennon Doyle says, yes. But two, if you want a different outcome, you've got to start doing something different. Of course, this isn't going to be easy. Habits are easy because they've been done so many times over and over and over again. That's why they're habits. That's why they're easy now. That's why you don't think about it. That's why drinking can be so easy and mindless because it doesn't take much effort to walk, open, pour, drink. Pretty easy. It is also why I recommend child proofing and putting your alcohol out of sight, out of mind. Super hard to get to. Anyway, that's a whole different thing. But as you're going through this, of course, I lost my train of thought right there. As you're going through this, this is really going to help you start connecting with yourself more. And anytime you're dealing with a tough moment, I see this all the time on parenting, whether it's Dr. Becky or some of the other experts that I follow. If your kid's having a tantrum, if they are just really, you can tell not okay, but especially in those really triggering moments, what they need more than anything is to connect. The same is for us. And what are we trying to do with drinking? We're connecting. You see me, you feel me, you hear me, you know what I need. That's basically what it comes down to. We know what you look at the alcohol and have this like, in love relationship with that. It's like, you know what I need. You know, I need to not feel, I need to feel happy, all of these things. But what is that? We are looking at alcohol to help us feel or not feel. So with this, just stopping and having this quick conversation with yourself, again, 90 seconds, it is going to make such a tremendous difference in your life, not only when it comes to your drinking, but with pretty much everything that you are aware of. If you want to change something, start focusing on this. If you want to make a difference, if you want to improve an area or stop doing something, this 90 seconds of really being mindful and intentional is going to not only get you there a lot quicker, but make it a lot easier. Another thing with kids, because they can be so triggering and such a big reason to drink, if this is for you, I'm really going to be surprised if you're not on the highly sensitive spectrum like I am. But when our kids are triggering us, that's two things. One, it is a reflection of ourselves. We know that people are just mirrors. If we like someone, typically there's something about them that we really, really want to see in ourselves, or that we do see in ourselves, or we aspire to. If we don't like someone, if we're having a hard time with someone, the exact same thing. It's typically something that we don't like in ourselves, something that we've really been working on, or, we're not like that anymore. So when we see it, it's really hard. Our kids are the greatest mirror for us that we will ever have. I see this all the time in my inability to deal with anger and what I feel like can be disrespect, even though it's a child being a child. But it just seems, in my mind, like, no, I was taught that's disrespectful. No, they don't have a frontal lobe. Like, they cannot comprehend that that is disrespect. They're not intentionally being a dick, right? Even though we feel like they are, that is not the case. So in that moment, one, connect with your kid, connect with yourself, whatever you need. Because again, it's a mirror. So if inner child work can be hard for you, your actual child is your inner child reflecting back at you. The other thing, the part two of this is, if you're being triggered, it's not been dealt with. You will know that you are over whatever it is when it no longer triggers you. So if going to XYZ triggers you to drink. Deal with whatever that is. Figure out what's behind that. When you do, you'll be able to go there, no problem. But that also, yeah, sometimes we need to set boundaries and remove ourselves. Other times we need to do the opposite and put ourselves in those situations so that we can learn how to be in them to be able to overcome whatever it is that we need to, so it is no longer triggering to us. What is something I want to implement something new? I believe it was in college, in one of my business classes, but there was, I was the note taker always, but I think I was so focused on taking notes that I didn't really get the content. Um, but I remember having one of the speakers tell us everything that you do, any meeting that you're in, any class that you're taking, like each day, the conversation that you have, take away just one thing. We can't take it all in. We want to, but we can't, right? It's too much. What is one thing that you can take away? And when it comes to stuff like this, what not only one thing that you can take away, but how can you make it an AI? And no, I don't mean artificial intelligence. I mean, how can you make it an action item? When you have an action item, it's something that you can focus on that day, that week, that month, whatever, but come up with an action item so you at least have something to take away from it. I know I am the queen of consuming a lot of content, especially educational content, on like self-help and all these different things because I love it. But it's impossible to implement everything. So what is just one thing that you can take away and implement? And if you need to pause this or go back and listen, obviously I would love that. But think of just one thing that kind of stood out to you. What is that? And from that, what can you implement and take forward through the rest of today or this week? What does that look like for you? With that, I think I want to leave you with just the reminder, parenting is hard. It is hard. It is so much more than I ever expected. I mean, I think being a parent, you know what you're getting into, but you have no freaking clue what you're getting into. I think even though I knew like being a mom, like I would be around my kids all day and da da da, whatever. But there's no way I could ever prepare myself for the emotional exhaustion. And again, as I'm learning more about HSP and all of that, I'm realizing why it is so taxing on me and I'm getting it and it's making it so much easier, more than anything, just losing the shame and guilt of like, why is this hard? But we don't expect that, yeah, we can hire babysitters, or if you're lucky enough to be blessed with like family or friends who will watch your kids so that you can go out and, do things. That's amazing. But at the end of the day, you're always a mom or always a dad. If you're listening to this, if you're a dad, and that doesn't go away. And the reason why I bring this up is it's hard. And I want you to know if you're struggling, if you're having a bad day or string of days or a bad day, bad week or month, or if it's approaching the year, I get it. I see you, I hear you, I am you. Start implementing your PS as soon as you can, because this is what is really going to help you keep your tank full, or at least keep it from running on empty. When I know that I am like super short with the kids or with my husband, or I'm just like, ugh, cannot get out of a funk, I am on empty. And if I look at my PS list, there is nothing that I've done recently on that list. So come up with this list and really focus on that 90 seconds minimum. Yeah, if part of it's like doing a puzzle, you need more than 90 seconds for a puzzle. I get that. That's again why it needs to have a lot of stuff on there. Also, I just want us all to think twice before we share those mommy wine joke funny things. Not because they're not funny, because again, I laugh at them plenty, but when you go to share something, especially like that, ask yourself, what what am I teaching my kids? If I were to share this with them, or if they were to see this, what message would that share with them? And I think when you see it that way, it hits a little different. And it's not near as funny. I know for me, just not wanting my kids to ever rely on alcohol would be the greatest gift. If I could pass down anything, I think would be the greatest gift. And by that, it's not ever showing them that one, you need alcohol for any reason, but that you never use it to cope with stress or negative emotions. And that it's an accessory. We all like to have accessories, but accessories are always best in moderation. And it's not something that you have all the time. So with that, I really hope that you guys can show endless love to yourself and the compassion and grace to yourself and also to others. But just really give yourself a moment. You are doing a great job. I know it doesn't feel like that. I have to tell myself that sometimes. You are here, you're showing up, you're listening. That means that you want to be better, that you want to be a better mom, a better partner, a better person for yourself. And because of that, I know you're doing a great job. So with that, I really hope that you enjoyed this. Would love to hear what your action item is or what your best favorite takeaway, in order for me to grow and continue helping more and more people. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, show the love, whatever that looks like to you. That is truly the only way that I can help get this message out there and let people know not only that they are not alone, but more importantly, that moderation is possible for most of us. It's not for everyone, absolutely, but sobriety is not for everyone either. And there is no shame in that. So with that, please share some this to someone that you love who could use hopefully a nice boost for them. But that's all I got. So, mwah, love to all, and we will see you next time.